A few days ago, I met a guy who appeared to be in his 30s. He said he had been following me on the internet for some time and then told me how he started a business venture with the hope of having some reasonable success, but after a few weeks or months, he had to give up. And when asked why he did that, his response wasn't at all a surprise. It's what I've heard again and again from most people, and I'll share that with you in today's video, as I use his story to talk about Abraham Lincoln's advice for young people who want to be rich. If you are between the ages of 15 and 40, this channel was specifically created for you. So, don't forget to subscribe. Back to my friend's story. He told me that he gave up on his dream merely a few weeks or months after he started because he didn't see anyone to support him. To some of us, this is ridiculously ridiculous. But to the rest of the world, it's normal. Why is no one helping me? Why is no one supporting my vision? Why is no one giving me money to start a business? Well, Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. But how can I create my future when I'm weak, poor, and only 21? Another big problem here is that you're as weak and as powerless as you believe you are. A lion who sees himself as a dog will think and behave like a dog. He will only dream little things, try little things, and achieve little things. The dog who sees himself as a lion will dare big things and achieve big things. The best way to predict your future is to create it. The Powerless Man in the Prison. I read a story from Herb Cohen's book, You Can Negotiate Anything. It's the story of a guy who was in jail and wanted to smoke a cigarette. He asked the warden to give him a cigarette, but he wouldn't. Then he told him how he could wound himself and lie that the water wounded him. While the management wouldn't believe the prisoner, they would start an investigation that would make the warden's life uncomfortable. And how does that worth the stress instead of giving a cigarette? While this might not happen in the age of CCTV, the story shows how powerful the weakest amongst us can be. The history of the world is filled with ordinary people like you who did extraordinary things, just because they believed they could do it. So, if you think expecting someone else to fix your life because you're only a weak being is a good excuse, then it's your fault if you fail. The best way to predict your future is to create it. How I Became Rich. I was lucky to come across a book when I was age 17 that changed the way I see myself and the world forever. For the first time in my life, I started seeing myself as the designer of my future. For the first time in my life, I started telling myself, if I fail, it's my fault. If I become poor, it's my fault. Some people think that this kind of assumption is not correct because they are not completely true. For example, a natural disaster could happen and affect you. How is that your fault? The accident could happen that badly affects you. How is that your fault? The economy could crash and that affects you. Again, this can't be your fault. While all these sound like a good argument, the problem with them is if you think that your future or present condition isn't your fault, you'll be waiting for someone else to fix your life. In my personal experience, my life changed from the day I took responsibility for it. First, I stopped expecting anything from the government of my country. Then I stopped expecting anything from the employers. Then my parents. While I was open to receive help from anyone who could help my journey, I knew their help or lack of it couldn't stop me. I am the only person who could stop me. When you have this mindset, then you'll stop expecting life to be easy, which is another problem with most people. Like the guy in my opening story, after he failed a few times, he simply blamed other people for not helping him and gave up. Most people are like that, simply because they haven't taken full responsibility for their lives. Whenever you see someone saying, the government isn't helping anyone, the corporate guys are greedy and make everyone else poor, nobody helps me, don't believe those statements because they are cover-ups for other things. Things like the fear of doing difficult things, the fear of failure, the fear of blaming oneself, the unwillingness to take responsibility, because responsibility is difficult. The best way to predict your future is to create it. For every young person who is watching this video, my advice for you is simple. Your future is in your hands. The only way to be certain you have a great future is to create such a future. Because if you don't, nobody will do it for you. Most people I know blame the government or their employer for their poverty. That doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know how that makes sense to anyone. Think about it. Your employer most likely doesn't care about you. I am an entrepreneur and I hire people all the time. I have read biographies and stories about other more successful entrepreneurs. I see the games politicians play all the time. And adding that to what I know about human nature, I don't know how anyone could expect that their employer or government should take care of their future. The best way to predict your future is to create it. How to create your future. So, how can a young man create his future? Let me answer this question by listing a few things. Know what you want and where you're going. This is by far the most important thing to do, because if you don't see the goalpost, how are you ever going to score a goal? I tell you, there are only a few people I know who can tell you what they want out of life in a few seconds without using some generalized statement that means nothing. What most people would tell you if you probe them about what they want out of life is, I want to succeed. This essentially means nothing, because what does success mean? Nobody knows, except those who define it for themselves. You have to be specific about what you want and how you want it. Study, and learn pieces of stuff nobody does. I think I've read some books 99% of the people in my generation have not read. If I come to your library, would I see there the books almost no one else in your generation has? Forget your university degree. It's a paper, and it won't help you to navigate the dark world. Knowledge of the world, people, and your area of specialization is what will make you succeed when everyone else fails. Don't expect life to be easy. An average soldier expects the battlefield to be difficult. So, when they meet with difficulties, the good soldier simply fights on. One big thing I've discovered about life is that most people somehow want life to be easy. So with this mindset, whenever people encounter difficulties, they simply look for an easy way out or even blame the devil for it. After failing in the business world for more than 5 years, I still have faith in my ability to succeed and still kept on trying. This is because I have accepted the fact that life is not easy. And anyone who wants to achieve success just has to be willing to fight hard and long. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Thank you.